Can trust ever be whole again once shattered? I am establishing spousal support at $2,000 per month, the judge declared, marking the beginning of my descent. My name, Kurt D'Angelo, became synonymous with betrayal as my wife's infidelity unraveled, entangling me in a web of legal and emotional turmoil. Our marriage, once a haven of love and partnership, became a battleground of deceit and manipulation. As the gavel echoed, signifying the judge's ruling, I knew this was not the end but a new beginning. This is my story. Enjoy watching it unfold. My name is Kurt D'Angelo and my ex-wife's name is Lily. Short for Lillian, my daughter. My pride and joy is Regina. To say she's a daddy's girl would probably be an understatement. Whenever she was free, I took her with me to different sites. She told the judge that she wanted me to be her guardian, but he didn't want to listen to her. The entire legal process was a complete mess. The monthly alimony payments were exorbitant. Lily was employed and earned an income. I shouldn't have had to support her, pay the mortgage, and cover all other expenses. I was clearly shortchanged, and the judge seemed to be in favor of it. However, I was not going to stand for this. In fact, I was already devising a plan to make her regret ever crossing paths with me. I can be vengeful when I feel wronged. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in Lansing, Illinois, to be precise. We know how to get back at someone. Some may call me an entrepreneur, but I see myself as a businessman who recognizes opportunities and seizes them. I must admit that when I was younger, not all of these money-making opportunities were entirely legal. Currently, I am involved in real estate, owning several rental properties, vending machines, and another business that could help me meet one of my obligations to my dear ex-wife. I own a coin-changing business similar to Coinstar, with machines scattered throughout Chicagoland and northern Indiana. This will enable me to cover the spousal support of around $2,000 per month, bit by bit. Let her take the coins to the bank. They will insist on having them all rolled up. Maybe she could contact one of her attorney acquaintances to assist in counting and organizing them onto rolls. Lily remained at home with Regina until she began attending school. Subsequently, Lily worked part-time for a few years. It was then that she conceived the idea of pursuing a career as a paralegal. She enrolled in classes for approximately 2 years and then actively sought job opportunities by distributing her resume. After around 6 weeks, she secured a position at one of the prominent law firms in the vicinity. Lily is intelligent, but I now suspect that her appearance played a role in her employment, even at the age of 32. She was one of several paralegals at the firm. However, it didn't take long for her to be promoted. She caught the eye of a promising lawyer who appointed her as his assistant. I now question whether she was doing me a favor back then. Foolishly, I fully supported her career decision as a husband. She returned home exhausted, yet with a smile on her face. Reflecting on it now, I wonder why she was fatigued and what those smiles signified. We resided in a pleasant home in Oak Forest, Illinois, a typical working-class suburb of Chicago. As she began mingling more with younger attorneys and even senior partners, her demeanor shifted. It started to sound like this: "We need to relocate to a superior area. You earn a good income, and I work at a prestigious law firm. We must demonstrate our success to the world." I was content with our current home. We had renovated it and made it our own. I had no desire to reside in one of the upscale suburbs. However, after 2 years of her persistence, I relented, but made it clear that I was not selling our home. It belonged to us. We could rent it out and add it to the other rental properties I owned. Consequently, we purchased a residence on the north side of Chicago in Wilmette. In order to afford the $900,000 mansion, as I jokingly referred to it, we had to secure a jumbo loan. Although it wasn't situated on the shores of Lake Michigan, it was in close proximity. She decorated it with new furniture to her liking. I never felt at ease there. Looking back now, I believe it marked the beginning of the end for us. We harbored divergent aspirations in life. I aspired to embody humility, akin to the anonymous millionaire residing next door. Conversely, she desired to showcase her affluence and embrace a lavish lifestyle. Now, reverting to the judge's ruling in our divorce settlement, I am committed to adhering to his stipulations until the very end. However, she may not be pleased with the outcome. In the ensuing month, I commenced formulating my strategies. My daughter will receive child support, but Lily will not be entitled to any portion of it. The funds will be allocated solely for Regina's benefit, enabling her to acquire her necessities and desires. Additionally, Regina will be covered by health insurance, the best available option I could secure. On the contrary, Lily will only have access to emergency coverage with a substantial deductible. She will be responsible for covering all her medical expenses unless she faces a life-threatening illness. Upon the lapse of 30 days, it is time to disperse the initial spousal support payment to Lily. An armored vehicle arrived at the mansion, and the driver knocked on the door. As she approached the entrance, she was accompanied by one of her friends. The driver informed her that he was delivering her first month's payment. Perplexed, she failed to comprehend why an armored truck was stationed at the gate. Subsequently, numerous inquisitive neighbors emerged from their opulent residences. Perhaps they speculated that she had won a lottery. Witnessing two individuals transporting bag after bag of coins into the living room and emptying them onto the Italian marble floor was quite a spectacle, even from my vantage point across the street, where I stood beside my car recording the scene on my phone. As the truck departed, she caught sight of me and began shouting in my direction. I merely waved my hand and shouted a response. "I trust you will relish your windfall." Subsequently, I entered my pickup truck and drove away. Hence, it did not come as a surprise when a gentleman approached me on Tuesday inquiring if I was Kurt D'Angelo. I remained stationary, paying him no heed. "Excuse me, are you Kurt D'Angelo?" he reiterated emphatically. Once more, I disregarded his presence. He proceeded to capture a photograph of me with his phone, presumably for the proposed subpoena. When I refused, he tossed it to the ground and uttered, "You have been notified." He then departed. After ensuring he was gone, I retrieved the summons. It required my presence in court the following Wednesday, giving me a week to prepare. I spent the time efficiently contacting people, making arrangements, and getting ready for the trial. I also contacted Regina, and we had lunch together. Regina was upset with her mother, unable to fathom her behavior. She reiterated her desire to live with me, but her mother disagreed. I assured her that I would go back to the judge and, if necessary, face the consequences. "Don't do anything rash, Dad. It's not worth it. Rest assured I won't, but I will voice my opinion even if it lands me in jail. Your mother will be pleased, I'm sure. Don't worry about me. I can handle it for you. I have set up a trust. Uncle Ken will oversee it until you come of age, ensuring your needs are met. Just know your mother won't benefit from this. It's for your well-being, not hers." "Of course, Dad. She doesn't deserve anything," she stated firmly. "This was my daughter. She was strong-willed and growing up fast. Dad, I will accompany you to court and demand to live with you. I'm not sure if it will make a difference." On Wednesday, Regina, my lawyer, and I sat in the gallery awaiting our turn before the judge. Lily entered with her lawyer and warned, "Hey, jerk, stick to the rules. You can't do as you please. Just wait." When the judge called my name, Regina stood up and approached the podium first. "I apologize, Your Honor. This is a case involving Kurt D'Angelo." The judge responded, "Well, I am his daughter, and I wish to petition the court once more for my father to be my guardian, not this woman, my mother." She glanced at Lily and added, "Young lady, you will not speak that way in my courtroom. The custodial parent has already been determined, but I am 15 years old. I believe I should have the right to choose who I want to be with," she insisted, interrupting the judge. "Well, there were allegations of improper relations with your father, so I ruled in favor of your mother upon hearing this." I glanced at Lily, and a smirk crossed her face. My attorney stepped forward. "Your Honor, we are not aware of any charges, and they were not brought forward or presented to the court at any of the previous meetings. I referred to the psychiatrist's report that I received with this information. I stand by my decision, so this matter is closed. About 4 months ago, Regina was going through a difficult divorce as well as problems at school, so we decided to take her to a psychiatrist. There must have been something in those notes that Lily thought could influence the judge in her favor. I have never engaged in any inappropriate behavior with my daughter. Lily tried to portray me as a pedophile. My blood pressure was rising. I couldn't believe Lily could lie like that, accusing me of something I didn't do. The judge didn't even let me finish. I stared at the judge. He will pay for this. I suppose her law firm was placing bets. Let's see what they all do in the end. My vindictive nature was starting to show. Lily's lawyer spoke. We are requesting the court to find Kurt D'Angelo in contempt of court. My lawyer was almost as heated as I am now. He saw that there would be no justice in this courtroom today. Your Honor, my client has complied with all the conditions of the divorce decree. There are no grounds for disrespect. Your Honor, said Lily's lawyer, Frayne. His monthly spousal support payment was delivered a week ago on Saturday and thrown on the floor of her residence. And what the judge asked, the amount of $2,000 was all in change, mostly pennies and nickels. This caused some damage to the flooring and required a significant amount of time and effort to clean up. My lawyer didn't even wait for the judge's answer. Your Honor, Section 5.1003 of Title 31 of the United States Code states that the coins and currency of the United States are legal tender for the payment of all debts, government dues, taxes, and duties. My client has been diligently meeting his obligations, including spousal support, insurance, home mortgage, and child support payments. Your Honor, stated Lily's attorney, as of today, my client has not received the child support owed by Mr. D'Angelo. Indeed, Your Honor, my client's child support payments are directly provided to his daughter for her needs and expenses. You can verify this with her directly. The judge was taken aback. He turned to Regina, who confirmed this with a smile and a nod. We have ceased issuing insurance and mortgage checks, my attorney explained. I observed Lily and her attorney exchanging glances, attempting to formulate a response. Your Honor, he argued, the method of payment in coins has caused significant inconvenience for my client. Could we request that future payments be made by check instead? The judge managed to interject with a reasonable question before anything else could be said. My attorney addressed the court, Your Honor. Before proceeding further, may I pose a few questions on this matter? The judge inquired about the nature of the questions. Are the Chicago police considered part of the legal system in the city of Chicago? The judge regarded my attorney with surprise. Certainly they are. In that case, my attorney continued, if my client's vehicle is impounded and he wishes to retrieve it from the Chicago police impound lot, he is required to pay in cash or credit card, as checks are not accepted. The judge hesitated. My attorney pressed on. If, as you have acknowledged, the police are part of the legal system in Chicago and do not accept checks, how can my client be compelled to make future spousal support payments by check? The judge, looking flustered, attempted to justify his position. This is my courtroom, and my decisions hold authority. At that moment, I decided I had heard enough. I stood up because you hold the authority and are attempting to please my wife's law firm. What? She was also involved with you intimately. At this moment, he became extremely angry. Mr. D'Angelo, I find you in contempt of court and sentence you to 6 months in the Cook County Jail unless you apologize to me and the court and agree to any conditions I impose. And who might you be? The king of this unjust court, I exclaimed. The judge was taken aback. I am certain he has never been spoken to in such a manner before. Bailiff, take this man into custody. I glanced at Lily and her lawyer. They were astonished. Good luck obtaining your illicit funds, derogatory term, I remarked, and then smiled. She had no idea how drastically her life would change. I was escorted to a cell, subjected to a strip search, and then transferred to prison. Prison is not an ideal term. It is more akin to a dungeon. Immediately, 2 guards began to harass me about the disrespect I displayed towards the judge. I had no fear of prison. I maintain a height of 193 centimeters and weigh approximately 116 kilograms. My work with rental properties has kept me physically fit. Furthermore, during my teenage years, I had a brief stint in prison. I underwent processing and was taken to the prison yard. I paid no attention to the chatter and commotion, but I firmly resolved to keep my distance and remain vigilant until someone approached me. I would be inconspicuous when the evening meal was served. I collected my tray and navigated through the line. I positioned myself against the wall and ate, observing the individuals who were attempting to appear more intimidating than they truly were. Then, amidst the clamor, I heard a voice that I hadn't heard in several decades. Tex. My street acquaintances have called me Tex since my days as a juvenile delinquent. Tex, Randall, also known as Ringer, exclaimed, "What on earth are you doing here?" As he approached, many eyes followed him and turned towards me. I set down my tray and embraced him in a strong hug, clasping our right hands together and wrapping my other arm around his shoulders. Ringer. Well, well, you are a welcome sight indeed. Ringer informed me about the situation. He assured me of his support, and I accepted it. We reminisced about the past. So, what is your plan regarding your ex, her partners, and the judge? He inquired after I shared everything. He knew me since my younger days. Seeking vengeance was always my way of handling things back then. That's how I earned the nickname Tex. Tex is derived from Texas. Why? Because you don't mess with Texas. Those who dared to cross me paid the price, and it served as a warning to others. So what transpired with the judge? He questioned. I bluntly told him he was nothing but a piece of garbage. What did he do? He probed. He snatched my daughter away from me despite her desire to live with me and then accused me of a heinous crime. What are your plans to address this? I have a few ideas. I anticipated being in this situation, so I began strategizing weeks ago. Can I offer any assistance? He offered. Perhaps. But for now I am uncertain. Nonetheless, having a friend here is comforting. I will introduce you to some of my acquaintances. It's reassuring to have individuals who support you and whom you can rely on. After introducing him to a few friends, Ringer began recounting tales of our escapades in the streets of Lansing. There were a few laughs, but mostly nods of agreement, as if their stories were not all that different from one another. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the wall, I pondered how this all came to be. I reflected on my life. My childhood was harsh by most standards. A father who was a violent alcoholic, and a mother who lacked the strength to stand up to him. Even when my father started abusing me, I was forced to spend most of my time on the streets. I encountered a group of individuals facing similar circumstances. We were not a gang, although we pretended to be one. We were merely naive youngsters tackling challenges that came our way. The crime rate in Lansing is notably high, and unfortunately we were contributing to those statistics. Primarily engaging in minor offenses, we did, however, steal a few cars. This led me to the correctional facility. Upon reflection, it was the most beneficial experience I had. Undoubtedly, it was challenging, yet it provided me with an opportunity to contemplate the trajectory of my life. I made a promise to myself that I would strive for something meaningful. Upon my release, I transformed and began outlining my future plans. By the age of 20, I had accumulated sufficient funds to purchase the neighboring house that had been repossessed. That was the initial property I renovated and subsequently rented out by the time I turned 22. I was at a nightclub hoping for a stroke of luck. The name of the club escapes me. It underwent numerous name changes over the following decade before being demolished to make room for condominiums. I considered myself fortunate that night, or so I believed at that moment. I crossed paths with Lily. We hit it off immediately. Her background was vastly different from mine. She had recently relocated to Chicago to reside with a friend, having grown up in Seymour, Indiana. Seymour is a quaint Midwestern town. Her upbringing in a small town shaped a 21-year-old woman with a perspective on life that I found appealing. They say opposites attract. A year later, we tied the knot, and a year after that, Regina was born, named after Lily's mother. I acquired a property in Oak Forest with the intention of selling it, but upon seeing it, Lily adored it and desired to make it our permanent residence. Over the subsequent decade, we dedicated our efforts to transforming it to our liking. Those were the most fulfilling 10 years of my life. We collaborated on home improvement projects, witnessed our daughter's growth, and hosted gatherings for our neighbors. It epitomized the American dream. However, Lily secured a position at a law firm, and gradually everything began to change, particularly her outlook on life. The simplicity of our previous life no longer resonated with her. She insisted on having luxurious clothes, jewelry, and hosting neighborhood barbecues, which eventually transitioned into dining at expensive restaurants, often accompanied by colleagues from her law firm. She also started making disrespectful remarks about the residents of Chicago's South Side. Despite being aware of the area's reputation and reality, she, a country girl, behaved as if she were superior to everyone else. Our disagreements escalated due to her haughty demeanor. Shortly after, she persistently tried to persuade me to relocate to the North Side. 3 years ago, we made the move. While the school system was undeniably better, Regina encountered the snobbish attitudes of her peers from the North Side. This made her school life unbearable. She repeatedly expressed her desire to return home, a sentiment I shared. However, Lily remained adamant about staying where she was. The incident that marked the beginning of our divorce occurred on a typical evening during that period. Around 6:30, she phoned to inform me that she was attending a dance with other paralegals from her workplace. Suspicious, I tracked her phone and decided to check on her. I discreetly observed her from a distance. She danced with men from the club who treated her as if she were available to everyone. They engaged in kissing, touching, and other inappropriate behavior on the dance floor, stopping short of intercourse. At approximately 9:15, I excused myself to use the restroom. While occupied in a stall, I overheard two men entering. "Damn, Joe, you're a legend." Lily was all over the dance floor. "I thought you were going to seal the deal right there," one of them remarked. "Yeah, she's quite the wild one." "And she knows how to please," the other replied. "She mentioned coming over to my place tonight. Finally, we can have a proper night together. Not just a quickie in the office or my car," he continued. "It's good for instant gratification, but nothing beats a full experience," the first man agreed. "Well, tonight we're in for a wild ride," he boasted. "Maybe it will be my turn next weekend," the second guy mentioned as they exited the restroom. The conversation seemed more genuine than mere boasting. I emerged from the restroom a minute later to witness her in the arms of one of the guys, passionately kissing on the dance floor. Around 9:30, she messaged me, explaining that she had consumed too much alcohol and didn't feel safe taking a taxi so late. She informed me that she planned to spend the night at Paula's, another paralegal from her office. I responded, "That's fine." She replied, "Sorry, she will be sorry." I observed her leaving the club hand in hand with a young lawyer from her office. I trailed them. They were so absorbed in each other that they didn't notice me. They entered his Lexus and engaged in intimate activities for a few minutes. Initially, I felt enraged, but then my Southside vindictiveness took over, and I composed myself, formulating a plan. Subsequently, I followed them to his residence. Upon their arrival, I informed Regina that we were leaving and she should pack her belongings as we wouldn't be returning. She seemed delighted, but inquired about her mother. I reassured her that others would take care of her now. Regina comprehended my intentions perfectly. It took us approximately 3 hours to load everything into the back of my pickup truck. Fortunately, our vacant house in Oak Forest provided us with a place to go by around 11. The following day, Saturday, she called me on my cell phone. "Kurt, what's happening? Where are you?" I responded simply, "Home." It didn't take her long to grasp the situation. "Why?" she inquired, fully aware of the reason. "I don't know you anymore, and I don't want to." "Where is Regina?" I replied. "With me. She doesn't want to stay with you in that house anymore." She acknowledged, "I know." Uncertain if I was aware of her boyfriend, she hesitantly asked, "Come on, Kurt. My company will devour you." "That might be true," I replied. "However, in the end, I will emerge victorious. You have not yet witnessed the full extent of my wrath in the upcoming 6 months." She showed no interest in reconciliation. She even informed me that she was meeting with one attorney or another. I remained indifferent. There was no turning back. I had to win Regina back. Regina needed to return to school. Regina informed me that Lily was out almost every night until at least midnight. Furthermore, she mentioned that Lily constantly criticized me, claiming that I lacked sophistication, and that Regina should aim to marry one of the wealthy boys from her school to live a life of luxury for the rest of her days. Regina always defended me and expressed her desire to return to Oak Forest to my mother. Now I find myself incarcerated, and Lily probably believes she has won. While I may be behind bars, I will strategize. I wonder if she considered how she would manage the mortgage, health insurance, and naturally, alimony. She likely assumed that a few days in prison would bring me to my senses. No, it will only provide me with more time to plot and execute my vengeance. An incident occurred on Thursday afternoon that will alter the destinies of numerous individuals, some of whom I will never encounter. The 2 former guards instructed me to accompany them. I was escorted to a video conference room. I inquired, "What does it signify if I have to speak with a judge?" "I demand my attorney's presence," I stated. They ushered me into the room. "Sit down. You will not address the judge, but you will be sentenced." They shut the door, and I began shouting for them to release me. Approximately 10 minutes later, I found myself frantically moving around the room when suddenly the door swung open and the guards allowed 6 prisoners to enter. Aware of their intentions, I was determined to do whatever it took to prevent their plans from unfolding. I sternly warned them, "Do not underestimate me. You will regret this." One of them approached me, and without hesitation I struck him directly in the nose. In response, they all lunged towards me. I fought back, using a combination of swings, kicks, elbows, and strategic maneuvers to subdue them against the walls. Then, the largest one, towering 15 centimeters above me, caught me in a chokehold. Despite the struggle, I continued to fight until I eventually lost consciousness. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in the infirmary, covered in blood, bruises, and experiencing intense pain. I knew exactly what they had done. It was their way of asserting dominance, and this was how they achieved it. As the morning light streamed through the window, I realized that I had been out all night. When the nurse approached me, I glared at her with a deep-seated hatred. It was a hatred for the entire system that had torn my child away from me, forced me to pay exorbitant amounts so that my ex-wife could live luxuriously in a mansion, and ultimately imprisoned me to teach me a lesson. The nurse met my gaze and spoke, "I am here to assist you, not harm you. You have suffered severe injuries from a fight, but we both know the truth. I was bound, rendering me unable to move my arms and legs," she continued. "I can either help you recover, or you can remain here and endure further suffering." There was no distinction between the two options. Perhaps she didn't even need to utter those final words. She genuinely wanted to help. I attempted to muster a smile and apologized, acknowledging the trauma I had experienced. The nurse left momentarily but returned with a tray of breakfast. She freed one of my hands and I expressed my gratitude, saying, "Thank you." She replied, "It's my pleasure." As I sat there eating my meal, a realization dawned upon me. "May I ask you a favor?" I inquired. She responded, "That depends on the circumstances." I explained, "One of the prisoners, Randall Turner, is a childhood friend of mine. Can I request for him to visit me?" Her response was, it transpired, that she successfully obtained permission to visit Ringer later that day. He unexpectedly walked in on me while I was in his presence. He uttered an expletive. He knew I wouldn't let it slide. I recounted the details of the 6 men and 2 guards who had harmed me. "I need to know the full names of all 8 individuals, not just their nicknames." He repeated the expletive. "And what do you plan to do? An eye for an eye, with a twist." He discerned the meaning behind the look in my eyes. He understood that it wouldn't be pleasant, and that innocent people would suffer. "I'll try to obtain the information," he said. "What do you need me to do?" "Just this," I replied. "I'll take care of the rest." We continued our conversation. Then he was escorted back to his cell. Sleep that night was fitful. I couldn't find comfort, bound to the bed. The following day, Ringer returned with a list. He inquired once more, "What comes next?" "The less you know, the better," I responded. He muttered the expletive again. The next day, which happened to be Sunday, brought both good and bad surprises. Lily arrived and brought Regina along. Lily was the first to speak to me. "So, I see you're getting along with your fellow scum," she sneered. "What the hell do you want?" I growled. "Regina insisted that we visit you. Are you ready to apologize and be reasonable?" she asked. "Not a damn thing like that," I retorted. "And what's all this nonsense about me and Regina? You know I would never do anything to her." "How should I know?" she replied. "She has an unusual fondness for you. You piece of trash." "Get out of here and send Regina," I snapped. I was tired of conversing with her. She smiled in a way that only repulsive garbage can. She thought she had the upper hand, and she did. She was merely adding fuel to the fire that would consume her when they brought Regina in. She began crying upon seeing me, all bandaged up and lying there. "Honey, don't cry. It looks worse than it is," I reassured her. "Dad, I was frightened to witness you in such a condition. You appear as though you have been in a terrible accident. Please do not concern yourself with me, my dear. I possess more resilience than I may appear to have. I harbor resentment towards Mother for subjecting you to this ordeal. I resent her for forcing me to reside with her. Furthermore, I detest her for accusing you of inappropriate behavior towards me. Such allegations are utterly baseless." "Regina," I acknowledged, attempting to offer her solace. Please refrain from calling me that again. I gazed at her, perplexed. Henceforth, I shall be known as Gina. I do not wish to be associated with my mother or anyone from her family. Therefore, I informed her of this decision and added that I would only communicate with her if necessary. I have not spoken to her since Monday. She continues to make efforts to be kind to me, but I persist in ignoring her. Gina, I addressed her by her newly chosen name. You are more similar to me than you realize. I am truly proud of it. She smiled. We engaged in further conversation about trivial matters. Then I inquired, Can you do something for me? Anything, Dad? I handed her the list that Ringer had prepared for me, and she promptly concealed it in her bra. Deliver this to Uncle Ken and instruct him to come see me as soon as possible. My brother Ken was 3 years younger than me. He grew up enduring the same abusive, alcoholic father, but I did my best to protect him. I also bore the brunt of the violence to shield him. He possessed great intelligence. He developed a keen interest in computer games, which eventually led him to computers themselves. We sat and conversed for a while until Lily returned and informed Regina we must depart. Gina did not utter a word to her. She simply stood up, embraced me, and departed. Your daughter is just as stubborn as you, Lily exclaimed. I merely smiled at her, and she turned and walked away. On Tuesday, Ken paid me a visit. He was taken aback by my appearance. I appear much better than last Friday. I am glad I waited, he jestingly remarked. Then he began speaking to me in our own secret language. We created it when we were young to discuss Mom and Dad without them understanding. Now, when we need to converse privately, we employ it. Regina. I apologize, Gina, he said in our language. She handed me a list. I have conducted some preliminary research. What specifically are you seeking? Addresses of wives or regular girlfriends? He glanced at me and then uttered in English. Expletive. Speaking in our secret language, I responded, That is all you need to do. Then give it to Gummy and request that he visit me without a list. Ken knew that he resided in his parents' former residence in the Lansing area. I am capable of doing it. Is there anything else? No, that will suffice. Just ensure you don't become a stranger. It wouldn't hurt to have a familiar face around occasionally. Are you planning to go out soon? He inquired. Not unless I apologize, and you know me well. You've always been stubborn, he remarked. Indeed, and it shielded you from your father's intoxicated rage. He acknowledged I was correct and simply grinned. I'll drop by in a couple of weeks to see if you require anything else. That would be appreciated. Later. That week I returned to my usual cell and Ringer spread the news that trouble was brewing and there would be consequences. They were unaware of how. The glances I received from the 2 guards and the 6 others implied, You better stay put or it will happen again. They didn't realize they would be put in their place. Dummy came to visit and informed me. Ken handed it to me. What do you require? Did you hear what they did to me? Yes, I did. Ken likely instructed him to reciprocate, but to their loved ones. Just don't use Steely Dan or his more adaptable counterparts, I stated. He nodded. So he comprehended what I meant. Then I instructed, all on the same day, preferably simultaneously, ensure they inform their loved ones. Don't mess with Texas. I'll contact my friends for assistance, he declared, and departed. Soon he will seek retribution on my behalf. He knew how to execute it without them being able to identify anyone. However, they will understand the motive behind it. A week went by without any news. I was also anticipating another visit from my daughter. I didn't want to see Lily, but I knew she had to be present if Gina arrived. On Tuesday morning, I observed that 2 security guards were absent from duty. They typically didn't have a day off on Tuesdays. Additionally, one of the 6 appeared distracted and appeared troubled. It must have occurred yesterday. I mused. I informed Ringer to spread the message. Don't mess with Texas. Soon, numerous inmates began to address me. Hey, Tex. After a few days, the 6s started giving me hostile looks. The 2 guards resumed their duties and stared at me. Fortunately, Ringer's friends stood by my side when one of the 6s approached me. 8 of my newfound companions surrounded us. The man accused me. You're despicable. I don't know how you managed it, but my girlfriend left me. She mentioned she didn't want to risk getting hurt again. Then she added, They warned me, don't mess with Texas. I simply smiled at him. It sounds like sound advice. I warned all of you not to do what you did. Now your loved ones understand the consequences. An eye for an eye with a twist. The message is clear. You hurt me, and I'll hurt those close to you. Let the others know that next time it might be their mothers. His eyes widened and he rejoined his friends. Shortly after, 2 guards came up to me. Who do you think you are? We'll make your time here a living hell. Well, then I suggest your wives prepare for the treatment they gave me. They might even enjoy it afterward. One of the guards stepped forward to strike me. I didn't resist. After a minute or two, he landed a blow. Another guard intervened and pulled him away. Many inmates witnessed the incident. I'm certain the cameras caught it as well. I was escorted back to the infirmary where Beth, the nurse who had assisted me before, was waiting. So we have a troublemaker here, I stated. I didn't lay a hand on anyone. It was the guard who initiated the violence. This time there will be an inquiry, she assured me. There were too many witnesses. He might lose his job over this. One less jerk of a guard, I remarked. These guards are here for your protection, whether you acknowledge it or not. Last time, he certainly didn't protect me. In fact, he allowed it to happen. She tended to my injuries and informed me that I would need to stay overnight for monitoring. I couldn't help but wonder if she just wanted to gaze at my battered yet handsome face. Security has been suspended pending an investigation. The other guard continued to glare at me but refrained from speaking. He might have received a message. Do not mess with Texas. It had been 3 weeks since Gina visited me, and I was curious about what had occurred. Eventually, Ken arrived and informed me that Lily was refusing to bring Gina to visit. This made me even more upset. My ex-wife hid my daughter from me at the end of the month. Lily showed up. She nearly left Gina at home. However, Gina would not come out of the car no matter how much she yelled and screamed. Lily approached me and was already angry. Your daughter is behaving terribly. She hardly ever talks to me. She's just as stubborn as you. You mentioned that was the last time you were here. Why don't you convince the judge to reverse his decision and grant me custody of her? I will gladly take her off your hands. I informed her that she won't get it. She needs to attend a good school so she can accomplish anything. Oakwist is a good school and she enjoyed it there. It's not even close to Wilmette. She's receiving a great education and meeting people who can assist her in the future. She responded, Our daughter will pave her own path in life. She doesn't need to rely on someone else. I disagreed. You're just so stubborn that you fail to see the benefits it can bring, Lily. We've debated about this countless times. You'll never change my mind, and I won't change yours. Why did you even come here? I know it's not to bring Gina to me. Her name is Regina, not Gina. Well, she doesn't want to be called that. Don't you want her to become an independent woman? You mean stubborn? Lily inquired. No, I mean independent. Capable of making her own decisions, determining what is best for her, not succumbing to the advances of a man with money or power. She looked at me and smirked, so she stated, I require spousal support. I need to purchase things and pay bills. Well, you'll have to manage all of this on your own salary while I'm behind bars. I can't receive payments from my company and I shouldn't. No work, no pay. That's how it operates in the real world. What do you mean? I can't cover all the expenses with my salary, I responded. You should have considered that before taking me to court again. Well, you act like a donkey by paying in small change. Now you won't get paid because I'm in jail, she insisted. No, I don't have to. What can they do to me? Put me in prison if I refuse? I'm already in prison. It wouldn't be wise for them to take me out and then put me back in. What should I do with the bills? She complained. I suggested, have one of your lawyer friends take care of the bills. I'm sure you can afford it. After that, she stormed out of the room. Gina entered. I was relieved to see her. You really upset her, she remarked. She expects me to keep paying her alimony while I'm in jail. Good luck with that. How are you holding up, Dad? Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. How are you doing? I heard you still don't talk to your mom. Not much. Only when necessary, she confessed. When do you think you'll be released, honey? I won't apologize to that jerk of a judge, and I'll only apologize if he sends you back to me. I doubt that will happen anytime soon. I might not leave until my 6 months are up. I understand, she said sadly. Next month is my birthday. I wish you could be out to celebrate with me, but I don't want you to compromise your principles. We can celebrate when you're out. This made me reconsider my stance. I was hurting my daughter by being here. Then Gina quoted something that made everything clear. If a person has no principles, he has nothing. as Abraham Lincoln said. Important principles should be steadfast, she cited. Where did you hear that? I inquired. From my counselor, Alex. I'm sorry. Dr. Hodges is at school. It was comforting to have someone to talk to about all this. Some of my teachers noticed my grades dropping and arranged for a psychologist to speak with me. It also helped me deal with my mother, even though we still don't talk. It is logical for a school system like Wilmette to have a doctor of psychology as its student counselor. These affluent students may not feel comfortable talking to a regular school counselor. I mentioned to Gina that her mother also appeared upset with her. Yes, she's starting to bother me. I just ignore her. I think it makes it worse, but I don't care. Well, in another couple of months, she will have to start looking for housing. The bank will not allow the jumbo loan to go unpaid for too long. I predict that within 3 months, her mansion will be foreclosed on. But Dad, if the house gets foreclosed on, won't that ruin your credit history? Honey, when you usually buy things with cash, you don't worry about credit. This stupid mansion was the only thing I ever took out a loan for. Is it true? Wow, Dad. Even with all your rentals and other businesses, have you ever taken out a loan? I used money from other businesses to buy new ones. Dad, I always respected you, but now I respect you even more, she smiled. Thank you, honey. You really know how to cheer me up. It was a wonderful visit from my daughter. I wanted to be with her more regularly. Besides, missing her birthday would be hard on both of us. I knew she would be okay. She was a strong child. The following week, I found out that the security guard who hit me had been fired. It was hard to dispute the video evidence, which showed that I was not even defending myself. A few days later, the other guard was removed. I don't know if he was transferred or not, but at least he was gone. Several prisoners thanked me for getting rid of the corrupt guard. I believe that earned me some respect. Now, even more people called me Tex. After that, I didn't face any issues. 6 was still upset with me. I heard that one of their wives filed for divorce and the other 3 were abandoned by their girlfriends. Hey, maybe stupid people can learn. Given the threat of further retaliation and the improvement in my standing among other prisoners, they knew better than to cause any trouble. A few weeks later, I received a summons to the video room for a meeting with the judge. Upon the guard's arrival to escort me, I made it clear that I would not meet with anyone without my lawyer present. However, to my surprise, the judge was already waiting. Ignoring my request, he insisted that I proceed without legal representation. I firmly reiterated my need for my lawyer to reschedule the appointment, as my calendar was open. After a moment of hesitation, the guard left. 3 days later, I was informed that the meeting had been rescheduled for the following week. I requested that my lawyer and I have half an hour to consult before the meeting, which was agreed upon. During our discussion, my lawyer informed me that he had not received any information about the meeting, which struck him as peculiar. We decided to approach the situation with flexibility. When the judge finally appeared on the screen, it was evident that he was displeased with the delay. However, I remained indifferent. In my opinion, he was nothing more than an arrogant individual who believed he was superior simply because of his position as a judge. Almost immediately, my lawyer spoke up, addressing the judge as Your Honor and expressing his confusion regarding the purpose of the meeting, as no information had been provided. The judge dismissively replied that I did not need to involve my lawyer and proceeded to inquire if I was prepared to apologize to the court for my actions. At that moment, I signaled my lawyer to approach me. Leaning in, I whispered in his ear, Your Honor, my lawyer informs me that I have no intention of apologizing and instead requests an apology from you. Furthermore, he asks for primary custody of my child. The judge appeared taken aback by this unexpected turn of events. How could I dare ask for an apology? Naturally, he refused. He asserted that his decision regarding the child custody remained unchanged, and he had no reason to apologize. Well, then, this meeting has been a waste of our time, my lawyer responded. If my client decides to reconsider in the future, we will promptly request another hearing. Best regards, sir. Just as we thought the meeting was coming to an end, the judge interjected, hinting that the true reason for the meeting was about to be revealed. He accused my client of non-compliance with the court's decision regarding the divorce. My attorney leaned in my direction, and I whispered in his ear once more. Your Honor, he has no intention of making any payments while he is in custody, but his house will be foreclosed on, stated the judge. Not to my house, perhaps to my wife's mansion. However, this is not my residence. I never desired to own it. I directly informed the judge. It will damage your credit, and you will lose all your assets. He replied that it's a small price to pay to see my beloved ex-wife walking outside where she belongs, I retorted. Then I said something that I knew would anger him. Maybe her lovers can cover the payments. I'm certain that among a dozen of you, you can come up with the money. I knew that if I insinuated that my wife was promiscuous and he was one of her partners, he would be furious. You're a worthless piece of trash from the South Side. Who do you think you are talking to? I cut him off as he was about to continue. I believe I am speaking to the one who took communion with my wife's body. If I am mistaken about this, I apologize. I simply cannot comprehend why someone who is not involved cares so much with these words. I stood up and walked towards the door to be escorted out. I overheard the judge say, "Counselor, your client has just earned himself an additional 2 months in prison. If he persists in disrespecting me, I will make his life miserable." I grinned as I waited for the guard to escort me back to my cell. You could tell he was eavesdropping because he had a shocked expression on his face. He couldn't believe what I had just done. When I returned to the cell, I was completely on edge. Apparently, my wife disclosed something about the mortgage to her partner, who then spoke to the judge. What a tangled web of deceit. Their time will come soon. The next Sunday, Lily couldn't resist visiting me in prison. Fortunately, Gina found out and insisted on accompanying her. So I heard that you angered the judge once more and received an additional 2 months in prison. When will you understand? It's futile to resist the system, Lily. Why have you stopped talking to me? All you're doing is revealing your feelings about the North Side, which I don't need. I just want you to ensure that Gina visits me regularly. Regina was practically shouting. I turned away and ignored her persistent nagging until she finally left and Gina entered with a big smile on her face. Curious about her happiness, I asked her the reason. She replied, "Because I'll get to see my dad." I probed further, but she teased me about a surprise she had in store. "Do you trust me with your life?" she asked, handing me a paper to sign without reading it first. I hesitated, wondering what she was up to. "You'll have to wait and see," she said, insisting on the surprise. I signed the paper, trusting her, and she concealed the content, leaving only the space for my name visible. Later, she mentioned that my sentence had been extended for 2 more months due to something I did. I apologized, and she reassured me that the judge probably deserved it. We chatted about school, her mom, and Dr. Alex Hodges, but she kept her plan with my signature a secret, emphasizing the element of surprise. Children learn best from their parents' actions rather than words. We are her primary teachers for life's challenges. What lessons do you think your actions will impart to her? I hope she learns what not to do. As parents, our goal is to raise responsible, law-abiding adults. I hope we have succeeded in this, and I pray that she won't bear the consequences of our mistakes, especially our failed marriage. It wasn't that bad, she said softly, but it all ended that way. Lily, I wish you find what you're searching for. Clearly, I didn't have it. As she gazed at me, I saw a mix of sadness and regret in her eyes. I rose from my seat and departed. I once again felt pity for her. Finally, the day of my release arrived. This time, I was summoned to a legitimate court. Gina, Freddie, and Lily were present as I sat and waited for the judge. I pondered what his verdict would be this time. I still had no intentions of offering an apology. The bailiff instructed everyone to stand. We rose as the judge made his entrance. It was a different judge. I wondered if he had truly been dismissed from his position. The judge carefully reviewed all the evidence presented to him regarding my circumstances. Then he turned his gaze towards me. "So, Mr. D'Angelo, what do you have to say in your defense?" I hesitated. I believed I should mention that I had completed my original 6 months plus an additional 2. At any point, I could have apologized and regained my freedom. I didn't feel that an apology was warranted, so I carried out the sentence. I responded, "You are a stubborn man, Mr. D'Angelo. I prefer to think of it as having a strong-willed character which has aided me in achieving success in both business and life," I retorted. Regarding your divorce settlement, it remains valid, and you will be required to compensate for the months you failed to comply. At that moment, my attorney interjected, "Your Honor, my client is willing to pay what he owes. According to our calculations, the amount is just under $20,000. He will graciously pay the full $20,000 today, acknowledging his financial responsibilities and committing to no further payments." Following this statement, Lily stood up. "What? You owe me more and must continue payments until Regina reaches 18, she informed the judge. "I will personally review all transactions in my courtroom." "So, counselor, how did you arrive at this sum?" "Your Honor, my client fulfilled the initial spousal support installment, mortgage, and insurance payments, as well as providing for his daughter. He continued to cover his daughter's insurance and upkeep during his time in custody. Due to his unemployment, he was unable to make spousal support or mortgage payments to his ex-wife. Now that he's able to work again, he can begin earning a living." The judge carefully reviewed the figures. Your client had been imprisoned for 8 months. The spousal support alone would have totaled $16,000, not to mention the mortgage payment. Your Honor, as per the court decision transcript, it states that until the minor child reaches adulthood, the child in question was emancipated within the last 3 months. The legal papers are right in front of you, and the house was foreclosed on 3 months ago. Therefore, there can be no payments on a loan that no longer exists. The information presented indicates that the debt amount is $19,000 each, so he will gladly pay her the full $20,000 and will consider his relationship with her terminated in all aspects. He examined the transcript and then glanced back at our calculations. He seemed puzzled about how to circumvent what was clearly stated in black and white before him. "I will need to conduct further research, but if the information you provided is accurate, then I will accept that sum." He then turned to Lily and me. "Do you have a child together?" "Yes, she is legally an adult in the eyes of the court. However, she is still a teenager with typical teenage issues and requirements. Both of you need to be civil towards each other so she can continue to grow in a healthy manner. Everyone should treat each other with respect." Directing his gaze at me, he added, "And you must also show respect to others involved in the circumstances that led to your divorce. Can I have your assurance on this, Mr. D'Angelo?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Mrs. D'Angelo?" "Yes, Your Honor," she responded. "And Regina?" He addressed someone in the audience. "I go by Gina, but yes, Your Honor," she replied. "Then, unless this information is proven false, I will consider this case closed. Mr. D'Angelo, you are free to go." "Thank you, Your Honor," my attorney acknowledged. As we rose to depart, Gina rushed over and embraced me tightly. Freddie stood close by with a grin on her face. I noticed Lily observing us while we conversed. She then approached me. $20,000, that's it, it's nonsense. Why did you choose your new acquaintances over me? They can assist you in getting back on your feet and finding a way out of your current situation. You heartless person. Lily, you can't do this to me. The judge specifically asked us to treat each other with respect." "Let's do it for Gina's sake," Lily, our daughter, spat out. "All right, what should I do now? I have no job, no place to live, nothing. You can search for another job, and as for housing, I can help you. I can provide you with accommodation in one of my houses free of charge for 6 months. This way, you can focus on getting your life in order." "You want me to move back to the South Side?" she complained. "It's rent-free." "Is it that bad?" she exclaimed. Then I turned to Gina and Freddie. "Ladies, are you ready to go?" "Certainly," they both replied. "Freddie, I think I owe you a nice dinner. I think I remember something," she said. "Well, let's go to RPM Italian. I made a reservation when I received confirmation of my release date. I really need to cleanse my palate from prison food." Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Lily. I could tell she was furious. This was our restaurant. We used to go there together on special occasions. The table is reserved for 6:30, so we have some time. Do you mind if we take a little drive? "I just need to get accustomed to my newfound freedom," I said. Then I turned to Freddie. "I have reserved a table for 4. Could you call your husband and check if he is available?" She fell silent, and her face became expressionless. Then Gina said, "Dad, she doesn't have a husband. Not anymore." Then she turned to Alex. "Sorry, Dr. Hodges, I didn't inform him. I didn't understand. The few times we spoke, she always wore a set of wedding rings. Even now, she still wears them. What did I miss?" "I apologize, Freddie, if I offended you." "No, it's not worth it." "You didn't know?" My husband died on the Eisenhower Highway about 5 years ago. A large car changed lanes and crashed into the median. They say he died instantly. I'm so sorry, Freddie. I had no idea. I just assumed that because you wore rings, you were married. Yes, I just haven't been able to take them off yet. I have a feeling that if I go through with this, he will fade from my memory. I am acquainted with a psychologist who has mental health issues. I have heard about this before. I deeply apologize. Would you consider joining us so that I can attempt to make amends? She appeared downcast, but replied, I believe it will be beneficial. I was so consumed by my own problems and desire for revenge that I didn't even inquire about her life. I felt like a complete fool. I needed to change my ways. Starting tonight, I will be receptive to whatever she wishes to share about her current self and the journey that led her here. I will be her closest confidant. The meal was delightful. It was such a relief to be able to dress casually and not constantly be on guard. Although freedom felt somewhat unfamiliar to me, 8 months can have that effect on a person. By the end of dinner, I felt significantly better. I took a leap of faith with Freddie. Alexandria. When you are ready, would you allow me to take you on a proper date? I don't mind how long it takes as long as you feel comfortable. But in the meantime, can we keep in touch? Of course, Dad, we will definitely stay in touch. She won't be able to get rid of me that easily, my daughter remarked, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Freddie informed Gina, then she turned to me and said, Mike and I never had children because I was still in school and he was starting a financial planning business. It simply wasn't the right time. So having Gina as a surrogate daughter has been incredibly therapeutic. I hope you don't object. After everything you have done for both of us, I wouldn't mind, I replied as we exited the restaurant. Gina added, I hope you like the appearance of our old house. Anything will be an improvement compared to where I have been living for the past 8 months. I chuckled when we arrived. I was taken aback. The shutters had been painted, and the bushes were neatly trimmed. Everything looked splendid from the outside. I couldn't wait to see what awaited inside. As I stepped into the house, it appeared different from the one I had left, but it felt more like home than ever before. I could sense Freddie's presence there. I know it may sound cliché, but tears welled up in my eyes. Kurt, I overheard Freddie mention that the hardened criminal was in tears. I quickly wiped my own eyes, feeling a sense of familiarity in this environment. Alex then spoke up, catching my attention. She said, I think I'm ready. Confused, I looked at her, only to see her remove her rings and smile at me. Unable to resist, I smiled back and we embraced. The consequences of the events leading to my divorce had caused the downfall of 10 lawyers, 4 paralegals, 6 politicians, and even a judge, affecting their careers and marriages. I apologized, expressing my regret that I wouldn't be present for her 16th birthday, but assured her that I would have a surprise gift for her when she next visited me. Curious, she asked what it was, to which I replied that it was a surprise, hinting that we both had surprises in store. As our visit came to an end, I asked Gina to invite Greg to join me. Greg had always been my trusted companion, assisting me in all my business matters. Gina agreed, saying, Of course, Dad. Realizing that my time in jail was imminent, I gave Greg specific instructions, hoping he would be able to carry them out. Now I had another task for him, a surprise for Gina's birthday. Later that week, Greg visited me and informed me that he had been able to accomplish much of what I had asked for. I then requested him to prepare the birthday surprise for Gina. He looked at me, seeking confirmation, and I assured him that it was the perfect gift for her. He agreed to discuss it with our lawyer and also visit my brother Ken to deliver something important. I trusted Ken to know what to do with it, and if he had any questions, he could come to me. Otherwise, he was to go to Gummy. Greg nodded and left. A smile adorned my face throughout the day. Gummy understood my cunning nature and would seek revenge on my behalf while I remained guiltless in prison. By the end of the month, my reputation among the inmates had grown. The guards must have shared how I had dealt with the judge, and like any other organization, the rumor mill spread the news among the prisoners. Soon, everyone began referring to me as Tex. Additionally, towards the end of the month, I received a visitor. As I entered the room, I saw Lily sitting there. I was on the verge of departing when she uttered, Kurt, please halt. I need to speak with you. I have no words for you, Lily. Our home is on the verge of being lost. You must provide me with some funds to prevent the foreclosure, she implored. "This is your residence, Lily. I never desired it, but you persisted until I relented. This house holds no significance for me. Moreover, in a declining market, we lack any equity in it. Let the bank seize it. Kurt, you cannot do this. You must assist me. Seek help from your acquaintances. I am certain they possess sufficient funds. Then you can truly reveal your true colors. Why are you subjecting me to this?" She wept. "Why did you fabricate a story and inform the judge that I was harming our daughter?" She was at a loss for words. She acknowledged that she had mistreated me. She burst into tears, and I departed. I felt relieved that all of this was pouring out of me as I was escorted back to my cell. The guard received a call and was instructed to bring me back. Upon entering, I anticipated seeing Lily seated there, weeping and once again imploring me to aid her. To my surprise, Gina was present. "Gina, your mother did not inform me that she brought you. I would not allow her to come unaccompanied. I apologize for missing your birthday. I mentioned, but nonetheless, I have a present for you, Dad. I knew you would overlook it, and I do not mind. I still love you. Furthermore, you need not present me with a gift," she stated. "What an exceptional daughter I have." I mused. "Well, I do not have it on me. In fact, it would be unfeasible. However, I can disclose what it is, Gina. The Oak Forest house is yours. It is placed in trust for you once you reach adulthood. When I'm released from here, may I reside there and naturally pay you rent?" Her eyes widened, and a broad smile graced her face. "Dad, my goodness. You have just eliminated a significant obstacle that was hindering a surprise for you. I still cannot divulge it, but when I do, you will comprehend. I adore you immensely. I love you too, sweetheart." I was perplexed by the mystery of what this surprise could entail. It must be related to our house. Not the grand days I returned to my cell, a grin spread across my face, a result of both the heated exchange with Lily and the pleasant chat with Gina. The other inmates exchanged curious glances, aware that a smile in that place usually meant trouble. One day, Gummy paid me a visit. Everything was set in motion. Videos featuring my wife, her colleagues at the law firm, some of whom were married, as well as the prostitutes who entertained most of the firm's lawyers, along with promising Democratic politicians and a certain judge I was familiar with, were all prepared. They all boasted about being untouchable and above the law. Interestingly, people tend to overlook hired help. Cleaners can move around freely. For someone who does the mundane task of cleaning offices after hours, money talks. A year of free rent speaks volumes. We simply requested them to install hidden cameras in conference rooms and offices. I knew I would have ample evidence to disrupt several lives. Anonymously, my brother posted the videos online with the caption, "Don't mess with Texas." They would be shared on strategic websites and sent to all news outlets and tabloids in the state. Various publications would eagerly await the opportunity to sensationalize the situation. Politicians and lawyers would scramble to mitigate the fallout. I smiled. In a week, I would inform the others about the impending chaos. It was imperative. A broad smile remained on my face as I made my way back to my cell, the guard noticing and realizing that I had just spoken with Gummy. "Oh no," he muttered. I simply nodded, my smile widening as the video footage was released. Lying on my bunk, the buzz of excitement rippled through the prison. Apparently, the news had somehow reached our little corner of hell. People openly started saying, "Don't mess with Texas." Shortly after, a large man, one of the 6, entered my cell. "You're a bad asshole. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I warned everyone not to mess with me, and now they regret it. I reciprocate kindness with kindness and violence with violence. I hope you accept my apology. Just because you're big doesn't mean you can't be hurt." He nodded and left. 3 days later, I was summoned before the judge. My lawyer was on his way, and we waited in the video room to connect with the judge. "I wonder what's the matter," he said with a grin. "Only time will tell," I replied with a grin. "Crap," he muttered. When the judge appeared, he glared at me. "You did it?" he shouted. "What are you talking about?" I replied indifferently. "Your text, right?" he continued to yell. "Some people refer to me as that," I calmly responded. "You will pay for this," he yelled once more. "I've been in prison for the last 4 months. How could I do anything?" I retorted. "Do you have friends?" he questioned. "We all have friends, Your Honor," I sarcastically replied. "You won't get away with this," he spat. I don't know, Judge. You might soon be out of work, and I heard your wife is divorcing you. Better call off your dogs, I demanded. Now you call my friends dogs. I'm not sure they'll appreciate it. If you corner a dog, you might get bitten, I warned. Are you threatening me? He asked. No, I'm just repeating an old proverb, I clarified. I'm going to make your life hell when you ever get out of this slimy prison. You better watch out. One day you will have to answer to people who don't care about your life, and I will be happy no matter what they do to you, he threatened before ending the transmission. I turned to my lawyer. Did you write it down? Of course, he replied, holding his phone. More fuel for the fire. Bar Association. It will be intriguing to listen to this. It seems that in Illinois, intimidation is considered a criminal offense. A few days later, another visitor approached me, and it turned out to be my wife once again. I thought I had clearly communicated to you that I have nothing more to say to you, you scoundrel, she yelled. What are you talking about? I inquired calmly. Because of you, I lost my job. My picture is plastered all over the news and the internet. How could you do this to me? She whimpered. You brought this upon yourself. Do you despise me that much? Yes. And all your lawyer friends who believe they are superior to everyone else, I retorted. I continued. When we first met, you were a charming, small-town girl with a wonderful personality, and now you've turned into a self-centered woman from the upper city, who loves no one but herself. What am I supposed to do? I am unemployed, and no one is willing to hire me. Perhaps you should return to Seymour and live with your family. I proposed. I can't. There was a headline in the local newspaper, Local Girl at Center of Chicago Scandal. My parents are considering early retirement and relocating to Florida to avoid all this gossip. Florida seems like a suitable place for you. You'll be much farther away from me. They don't want to see me. They barely want to speak to me. Your parents hardly want to speak to you, and your daughter almost doesn't want to speak to you. Maybe it's you, I remarked. I believe you should move and start anew. But it's best not to take Gina with you. Once I am released, I will return and petition the court for primary custody. Given your reputation, I think they will reconsider your suitability as the best moral example for an impressionable girl. You can't do this, she protested. She is all I have left, Lily. I don't care. You brought this upon yourself. We had a good life, and then you desired extramarital affairs. Hey, that's an idea. You could be a mistress for one of your lawyer acquaintances. I'm certain there's a demand for nearly 40-year-old women. She gazed at me with pain in her eyes. All I saw was agony. She rested her forehead on the table in front of her and simply wept. I turned and walked away while she remained in a state of fury. This time, my face lacked any trace of a smile. In fact, I couldn't help but feel sorry for her. She was completely shattered. The following day, as I watched the evening news, I discovered that a fire had engulfed the top floor of a 5-story office building in the city center. Thankfully, the sprinkler system prevented the destruction of the lower 4 floors, but the upper floor was completely burned out. A smile crept across my face. The next day, Ken approached me and informed me that the law firm's external server had crashed, resulting in the loss of all their data. Once again, I couldn't help but smile. A couple of weeks later, another visitor paid me a visit. It was Gina. She must have convinced her mother to bring her. As she entered, she wore the biggest smile I had ever seen. "Gina," I called out to her, "you seem incredibly happy. What has happened?" She replied, "I have finally completed my surprise for you. You'll never be able to guess what it is." I responded, "Well, based on our previous conversation, I know it has something to do with the Oak Forest house. Please don't tell me you and your mother have moved there. I know she would prefer to live anywhere but there." "You're partially correct," she said. I looked at her, perplexed. "My mom is being evicted from the Wilmette house, and I am moving to a house in Oak Forest." I inquired, "How are you planning to accomplish this? The court has granted her primary custody of you until you reach adulthood." This revelation left me surprised. She explained, "This is the surprise. By law, I am already considered an adult." Now, I was truly baffled. How is that possible? "Did you obtain emancipation?" I asked. She confidently replied, "Yes, I did. Alex and I have been working on it for the past 2 months. Once we established the house under a trust for me, it was a piece of cake. I needed a safe place to stay, and our old neighborhood was the perfect choice. I needed clarification, so I asked, 'So, You are now legally recognized as an adult? She confirmed, yes, that's correct. When I started facing difficulties at school, mainly due to the problems at home, Dr. Hodges assisted me in resolving this issue. Once you depart from this place, you may return home. I am eagerly anticipating going back to Oak Forest High School. I have already conversed with numerous of my former acquaintances. They are eagerly awaiting the end of summer and the commencement of school. According to Mom, you are spending time with your counselor. I would like to meet this individual, Alex. I expressed my concern about an older gentleman paying excessive attention to my daughter. Fortunately, you are fortunate. Alex is currently here with me. I was genuinely starting to worry. Does he drive around Chicago? I will return shortly, she stated, making her way towards the exit. I needed to evaluate the situation. How can I tactfully inform Alex that he is crossing a boundary when it comes to his intentions towards my daughter? I did not want to upset my daughter, but I desired to instill a sense of fear in him. When Gina re-entered the room, she was accompanied not by a man, but by an incredibly attractive woman with dark hair. She greeted me with a smile that seemed to say, "How are you doing?" I examined her more closely. "Freddie. I haven't heard that name in about 20 years. She replied, "Freddie, or more accurately, Alexandria. Frederica was from my neighborhood. She didn't associate with my group, but we attended the same school." Gina looked at both of us with confusion. "Dad, how do you know Dr. Hodges?" Freddie, or Alex now, I believe, answered on my behalf. "We used to live in the same area, but he never acknowledged my existence." I turned to Gina. "She was a couple of years younger than me in school, and we didn't really run in the same circles, and you were a troublemaker back then." She smiled. "I see you haven't changed much. You're already over 40 and you're in prison." My face turned red. I still can't keep my mouth shut when it's appropriate. "Seems like it," she remarked. "I heard that I should probably call you Tex." "What?" said Gina. "Why do you call him that?" "That was his nickname when he was a teenager. He was never afraid to seek revenge when someone wronged him. Your mom definitely wronged him. And if I'm not mistaken, Tex is likely behind the news about the law firm. I plead the fifth. I mentioned earlier that we should pause. May I inquire if it is acceptable for me to spend time with Regina?" "I am Gina, as Regina mentioned. Apologies, I forgot," she mentioned. Then she glanced at me once more. When I initially conversed with Gina about 9 months ago, she was deeply troubled by the events in her life. I pondered if she was connected to you and Ken, given that D'Angelo is not a common surname. Even after discovering her father's name is Kurt in her notes, I remained uncertain. "I have always known you as Tex. Upon learning that you were incarcerated, I was certain it was you. I was in a bad place back then," I confessed. "You must have transformed and achieved success to own a house in Wilmette." She mentioned it is merely a house. "It never felt like home to me here." Gina hesitated. "Yes, our true home is in Oak Forest, South Side, but in a much nicer neighborhood where we were raised," Alex mentioned. "Indeed, if we had stayed there, we might not be in our current positions." I remarked, then grew somber. Perhaps it holds some truth. If Lily had been content with our loving home, we would still be happily married. We conversed a bit more, and then I pulled Freddie aside. "I am truly grateful for you taking time away from your family to assist them. Thank you as well for aiding her in gaining emancipation. This will alter everything." "It's fine, Tex. She is like family to me. I have grown quite fond of her. Very well. Thank you once more. When you are released, perhaps you could invite us all for dinner," she suggested. "That is what I will do if I ever leave this place." The following 2 weeks passed without any significant developments, just the usual routine in prison. Gina and Freddie visited on Sundays, which I greatly appreciated. Freddie took Gina under her wing. Gina informed me that Alex helped her in decorating her house. They purchased new furniture and other decorative pieces. When I inquired about the source of the funds, she mentioned it was from Uncle Ken. Naturally, I have savings for my necessities. Indeed, yes. I just didn't want to find out that Freddie was paying for something. She helped a lot, but no, she didn't buy anything. It's not all girly stuff. I would like to feel at home there. Don't worry. Your man cave is still a man cave. She was talking about the basement. I set it up as a refuge for myself. Living in a household with 2 women can become monotonous over time. It's essential to have a space for solitude. As I laid there after their departure, my thoughts drifted to my daughter's maturation. She has reached adulthood now. Soon, I will be on my own. In a couple of years, she will head off to college, and her future is uncertain. I yearn to find someone who values life's simple pleasures. Then, on Monday, Lily paid me another visit. Upon seeing her, I almost made a hasty exit. "Kurt, wait! We need to talk!" she called out. Reluctantly, I turned back. "So, what's on your mind now?" I pondered. "Do you know what our daughter did?" Lily inquired. "What do you mean?" I questioned. "She emancipated herself. She no longer has to reside with any of us. In fact, she has already moved out and I have no idea where she is," Lily revealed. "Did you influence her decision?" she accused. "No, she made the choice independently. The school psychologist assisted her," I clarified. "Where is she staying now?" Lily probed. "With a counselor?" I responded. "No, she returned home. She went back to the South Side," I disclosed. "What about her education?" Lily persisted. "She will resume her studies at Oak Forest in the autumn." "She detested the school in Wilmette, Lily. She was constantly ridiculed for her background, labeled as a project kid. She never fit in with the elite. You transferred her from a school she loved, where she had close friends, to a place that damaged her self-esteem and left her feeling inadequate." "Your decision did more harm than good," I criticized. "I was only trying to ensure she received a quality education," Lily defended. "In the end, was it stubbornness or determination? Regardless, there are times when one must stand by their beliefs. On the contrary, Gina now has a new mother, along with a new brother and sister, who happen to be about 8 years younger than her. One of the siblings is named Frederick, while the other is Alexis. They are twins, and I found that endearing. I was able to give them both names. They were named after the man who helped me embark on a fresh start in life, Lily. She eventually married a wealthy lawyer, achieving what she desired. I believed we had everything: a loving family, a beautiful home in a pleasant neighborhood, a healthy child, and a successful business that didn't demand much capital. For me, it seemed like we had it all. However, for her, there was one thing missing: status. Now, she has attained that status. She is wedded to a wealthy lawyer residing in a grand mansion in Gwinnett. Additionally, she has a spouse, a misogynist who doesn't truly love her, but keeps her around solely for the sake of maintaining the facade of a stable family life. I sincerely hope she finds happiness. Kurt D'Angelo, following a tumultuous divorce from his wife Lily, during which the court favored her, was sentenced to 6 months in jail for contempt of court. While incarcerated, Kurt decides to seek vengeance against his ex-wife and her circle, whom he believes destroyed his life with the help of acquaintances. He orchestrates the release of incriminating videos featuring Lily and her colleagues, resulting in the downfall of their careers and reputations. Meanwhile, his daughter Regina Gina seeks emancipation with the aid of school psychologist Alexandria Alex Hodges, who turns out to be a former acquaintance of Kurt. After serving 8 months in prison, Kurt is released and discovers that Gina has taken up residence in their former home, a gift from him. Kurt reconnects with Alex, who reveals that she became a widow 5 years ago. A mutual attraction blossoms between them. Kurt eventually marries Alex, and they welcome twins into their lives. Lily marries a prosperous lawyer but appears dissatisfied in her new marriage. Kurt discovers contentment in his new family. This story pales in comparison to the following one. If you are not yet 18, it is strongly advised not to consider listening to the next one.